6 o'clock, on the button, let's roll. Welcome to everyone to this Board of Education work session on March the 1st. Call this meeting to order. First item there, as you see, is to approve our agenda this evening that you've seen before and have for you right now. So we do need a motion to approve.
So moved.
So moved, Mr. Burgess.
Second.
Second. Mr. Ransom, all in favor, please raise your hands. That passes 5-0. Superintendent's report is next. Dr. French.
Yes, sir. Board members, lots going on in the district this week and this month. Since we last met, wanted to share a few of those items. As you know, typically we would have celebrated our Teachers of the Year in a banquet, and so we were trying to hold off in hopes of being able to accomplish that. Unfortunately, that doesn't look like it's in the cards this year, so we were able with our business partners to continue to go through that process, and our teachers that lead that process and select Miss Sandy Palmer, a special education teacher at Oconee County High School, as the Oconee County Schools District Teacher of the Year this year. We were able to surprise her in an announcement on Friday of last week. And I got to tell you, it was very touching. She had her students there. We had our business partners show up that provide the significant donations that they typically present, and they were able to present those awards to her in the presence of her students in the cafeteria area. And it was really just a very neat moment, special moment for everybody engaged and involved. We also had the opportunity, Denise and I, to go to all 11 schools and present and recognize the Teachers of the Year for those schools with a wagon, as we do each year, full of hundreds of dollars worth of gifts and gift cards and tokens of appreciation from our community. So a very good day, an enjoyable day for us to go around, and I think our teachers and staff really appreciated that, and kind of built all day long. Because if you stopped off at the school and you saw us, then you knew that you weren't the Teacher of the Year, but you were still being represented or recognized rather for your outstanding accomplishments for being the Teacher of the Year in your school. So each time that happened, we did not promote it on social media until the event concluded, but kind of like the prize patrol running around, people understood where we were headed and where we were going. So it was a great day, and appreciate all of our outstanding business partners that continue to support us through that process and create that sense of pride and overwhelming support that I think our teachers feel in that moment. Certainly Ms. Palmer demonstrated that in that moment as well. So congratulations to Sandy. And again, a special piece just to have those students there, I think, was a really neat experience. We'll figure out how we might be able to incorporate that going forward in some form or fashion. Also wanted to make you aware that North Oconee and Oconee County High School were once again named Advanced Placement Honor Schools, including receiving the Georgia Department of Education's highest honor as an AP Schools of Distinction. So that's an award that we get pretty much each year, but it's a very high honor for our students and staff and schools to receive, and so we're always proud to see that come through. Last week was also National FFA Week, and so I had the opportunity to meet with student leaders from both the middle and high schools of those organizations. Always such impressive young people to sit down and have an opportunity to talk with them and to kind of talk about their accomplishments and the great things that are going on in our FFA programs. And then, of course, we had an opportunity to take a photo and show the rest of our community that was taking place as well, that are outside of our schools. 9 of our schools, encompassing 20 educators, also received in the last few weeks a combined total of over $55,000 in Walton EMC grants. You may have seen this on social media as well. The empowerment grants, as they're called, are in the areas of literacy, STEAM, technology, and family engagement. And so appreciate that partnership and the things that it does for our schools. I think you heard last when Tony McCullers was presenting. Colin Ferry's getting a book vending machine as a reward system, so that was part of those grants. And of course, as you know, ELI 6 voting is underway and continues. The early voting, the last day of voting, is next Friday, March the 12th. And then, of course, the traditional voting day is that Tuesday, March the 16th. And so we continue to share information about that, and Lisa will be sharing her presentation. The final thing I have is that as we conclude or start to look at concluding this year, as interesting as that sounds and the year has been, we also are already looking forward into next year, and nothing more exciting than kindergarten registration. And so this week we will be doing kindergarten registration. It will be online, but talking with parents that are about to go through that process, many that I've seen and know in our community and our staff has shared, there's still that same level of excitement. We'll be bringing those students in at a different time for their assessment to determine assistance that they would need in placements and things of that nature. But this week begins that process, and so our schools are geared up for that, and certainly our parents are really excited and engaged with that. That'll conclude Superintendent's report unless there are questions.
Any?
I have one. Where do we stand on the response to the legal letter from the law clinic UGA?
So our attorney has responded to that letter and shared that back with the UGA clinic, and we're not having any further follow-up from the UGA clinic in regards to that letter. Thank you. Yes, sir. Specifically, the attorney did say we were in the proper standing and meeting all legal requirements also.
Okay, any other questions? All righty, we'll move on next to teaching and learning report. Dr. Bob, welcome this evening.
Thank you, and good evening. The March Teaching and Learning Board Report contains 3 items of information and no action items for the March 8th Board of Education meeting. The first item of information is an update on the elementary distance learning model. As you may recall, we just recently opened the window for the 4th quarter selection of in-person or distance learning. We're winding down 3rd quarter. The last day of 3rd quarter is this Friday, and the first day of 4th quarter is on Monday. So we had 194 students to select the distance learning model for the 4th quarter, and again, this is for our elementary, and that is about 5% of our elementary students. And just to give you a recap of the previous numbers of the other quarters, the highest number that we had during the 1st quarter was 343, which was about 10%. 2nd quarter, 317, about 9%. 3rd quarter, when we started, was 239 at about 6.5%. And then currently, during 3rd quarter, as I said, we started at 239, and we're now at 223 distance learners. So for the elementary, just quick recap, we've gone from about 10% to 5% participating in distance learning. We've also continued to see students coming back at the secondary levels, reducing the number of students that are distance learning at the secondary level. The second item of information is an update on the 2021 Northeast Georgia Regional Science and Engineering Fair. Very excited to report that we had a significant number of students that performed extremely well, earning 28 out of the 36 awards that were announced. We have 12 of those 28 that will be going on to upper level competition. So we're very excited about that. The third item of information is an update on Georgia's waiver request of standardized testing and accountability requirements. Superintendent Richard Woods and Governor Brian Kemp submitted Georgia's waiver request of standardized testing and accountability on February 18th to the U.S. Department of Education. The U.S. Department of Education responded back to state leaders across the country on February 22nd. And what they have communicated is that states are required to administer the state-mandated assessments this year. You may recall last year, during the closure, the assessments were waived. You also may recall that the State Board of Education voted in December to lower the percentage weight for end-of-course assessments from 20% to 0.01%, and that will hold true and remain in place for the spring administration of the end-of-course assessments. But we will be moving forward with both the end-of-grade and end-of-course assessments this spring. The U.S. Department of Education did indicate that they were going to invite waiver requests to have accountability components removed from the test scores. So, in other words, states would still be required to report the test results, but not in the accountability measures, such as in Georgia, ours is the College and Career Ready Performance Index, or the CCRPI. So that, if approved, would be on hold. And that concludes the teaching and learning report, unless there are any questions.
I have one. For those students that are doing the distance learning, how would you administer tests for them, or would they be exempt?
It's a great question. In Georgia, there is not a method of being able to take that assessment from home, and so we will certainly offer the opportunity for the students to come in person. We did the same thing with the end of course test in December, and we had a very high participation rate of students that came in to take the assessment. Superintendent Richard Woods has stated publicly that districts should not require the distance learners to come in and take the assessment. So that is another consideration, which is helpful, that the U.S. Department of Education has said they will waive the 95% participation rate requirement.
I think you just answered my question, Claire. I guess the students who choose not to take the test, the standardized test, would in essence be opting out, exercising their opt-out choice.
They would just be not participating, and it would not penalize them. And
the second thing was, if, unlike in previous years, if a certain number opted out, there'd be implications to that. You're saying that's those implications of those opt-outs of those tests has been waived for this spring.
Yes,
okay.
That's correct.
But all of this is just for this spring. We don't know. Next year's a whole different ballgame, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Very good. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I just cream puff question on engineering fair, science and engineering fair. Of course, we put emphasis on this, 6 years ago maybe, on engineering. More and more emphasis on it. How many total students do we have operating in that? That's quite a good list there for awards.
You know, I'm not sure the total number that submitted, but it is exceptional to, see that we had 28 out of the 36.
It's pretty encouraging from where we started from. So, yeah, that's great. Thanks, terrific. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay.
Thank you.
Move on. Operations. Rob. Cool.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. The Oconee County Schools Operation Division March Board of Education report contains 3 items of information and no action items for the March 8th Board of Education meeting. First information item is our energy report. The January energy report shows a trend increase in usage over the previous month of December. The second item of information is our February league custodian meeting. It was held out at Dove Creek on February the 11th. And our custodial teams just are to be commended for the rigorous work ensuring their schools are clean for health each day. We really appreciate it. And the final item of information is our bus ridership. Mr. Peterson and his team are tracking ridership on a weekly basis and comparing the number of riders this year to the number of riders last year. Currently, our ridership is down 20.97% from last year. And that's all Operation Status, unless there's any questions.
None. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Next, Student Services. Dallas.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. The Student Services Report contains 2 items of information and no action items for the March 8th Board of Education meeting. The first item of information is school nutrition. I want to update you guys on our participation. Overall, we are up 3.6% in school nutrition participation since when compared to last February. Also want to make you aware that next week is National School Breakfast Week. So Ms. Thorpe has planned a lot of fun activities along with our school nutrition staff. The theme of next week is going to be March Madness. And she's got a point system set up where they're going to have some friendly competition. And the schools can score points by either increasing their participation or getting staff members to eat breakfast with them at school. So any combination of that will help them score points and win that competition. The second item of information is COVID-19 update. As I'm sure you guys are all aware, Governor Kemp last week set out a timeline that we'd be able to give vaccines to our educators. You'll recall that we worked with the Department of Public Health previously to vaccinate our educators that were in the 65 and older category. I'm very pleased to report that we've worked diligently with our partners Athens Piedmont to designate March 8th as our educator vaccination day. That's next Monday, which is the first day that Governor Kemp said that would be available. So we are targeting our second date of vaccination to be April 2nd, where we would finish up vaccinating the educators who get vaccinated on that day. And I think my friend and colleague Anissa is going to talk to you about a calendar amendment, possible amendment that you guys can discuss to facilitate that on April 2nd. Would like to just thank Athens Piedmont in particular for their partnership. We've been talking with them for months now about the vaccines and getting education along with the health department, and really pleased that we were able to provide this to our teachers and staff as early as possibly available to us. And that concludes my report unless there's any questions.
Let's move to the staff.
They are very excited. I talked to several of our principals after that news came out today, and I know Dr. Branch has received several communications from staff members as well. So they're very pleased. I think they feel appreciated that not only are they able to do that, but able to do it so quickly after that announcement.
That includes you guys too?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All staff. I would like to also share that we've had several other community entities, medical providers reach out throughout the course of this asking how they can assist us. So we will be putting together a list of all our local providers that have the vaccine available and how to register for those vaccines, and sharing that with our educators as well as things change. And they might have somebody that decided they didn't want it, but then they see how it's working and they decide they do want it down the road. We want to make that a possibility for them too. So we'll be putting that out to them.
I'd like to comment. I had the privilege of falling in the category of 1A. So I've had my vaccine. I had my second one Thursday a week ago. And I can just tell you, I really haven't changed my practices much, but there is a sense of relief that, hey, this shouldn't be life-threatening. We should be okay. My family should feel comfortable that Gran's not going to get something because they're around her. So I'm happy for our teachers, and I'm very happy that it's available to them on the very first day. thank y'all for working with that. And I also want to thank, Governor Kemp and all our healthcare workers that worked to make this happen.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a lot of people that have worked on this for a while now. I'm excited for the teachers.
Yes, sir.
And I've had both doses as well, and I had no side effects, but I'm still wearing a mask, as you can see.
Yes, sir.
I want to make sure everybody's protected. Just 24 hours, you won't be able to maybe move your arm quite as well, but it's okay.
Yes, sir.
But it's okay shot.
Dallas, I think I understood what you said. Just to reiterate, this is not just the teachers. This is all of our staff and employees, bus drivers, lunchroom workers. Everybody that's working for the school system is in this group that's going to be eligible to get this vaccine, right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Very good. Thank you.
Also,
I'll also say like Bill Argo, I fall into that 1A group, and I've had both of my shots, and didn't hurt. I feel great, and a great sense of relief as well. You're right.
I would also just like to share it's a question that we've been asking in terms of the vaccine and someone who's exposed after they were to receive that second dose of vaccine, that changes the quarantine rules for that exposure. So right now, they're saying that if once that vaccine becomes fully effective and you are exposed within 90 days of receiving that, then you would not be considered an exposure or close contact. And that could change depending on the data that they collect as we get farther out from people receiving the vaccines. But right now it's 3 months, just as if you were you got sick with the virus and then recovered. You'd have that 3-month window where you would not be identified as an exposure.
Any others? Thank you.
Just one final piece of commendation, if I could. Dallas has worked tirelessly to make this occur and led this effort on our behalf, and so I just want to publicly thank him for his work, and as you all know, the tremendous impact that it will have for our district, and as you shared, for just peace of mind for our employees, and so thank you, Dallas.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dallas.
So next is communications. Lisa, hope you're doing well.
I am. Good evening, board members and Mr. Superintendent. I have 2 items of information this evening for the Communications Board Report and 1 action item. So first I'll just start off with an update of eLost 6 communications. All right, just a quick recap about eLost itself. It's the Education Local Option Sales Tax, and it's that 1% penny sales tax, and it can be used for building projects, infrastructure, and technology. You'll notice salaries not on that list. It's not a new tax. It's been in existence in Oconee County since 1998. It's not a property tax, and because it's a sales tax, that means that it's shared among Oconee residents and non-residents alike. So all the visitors that come into our wonderful county, they would share in this as well. Why do we build schools? Why do we do additions? Because we're growing. We are the fastest growing district in Northeast Georgia with 3,500 or more students. And we talked about this last month. 22% growth since 2014. 8 schools opened in 31 years, and we opened Dove Creek in fall 2018. And there have been a number of additions as well. And then here's a chart of system enrollment, and it just keeps moving up. And here you can see that we've had 26% growth over the last 10 years. And again, we know based on a community survey that over 90% of residents cite Oconee County Schools as the #1 reason that they choose to live here. So just briefly, the projects that would be possible with the passage of eLost 6. Construction of Dove Creek Middle School, classroom additions to Column Ferry, High Shoals, and Malcolm Bridge Elementary Schools. Interior renovations, that means painting, flooring, lighting to Oconee County Primary, Malcolm Bridge Elementary, Oconee County Elementary, and Rocky Branch Elementary. And then finally, additional projects would be the construction of an instructional support center, buses, and technology. As I mentioned last month, we keep our bus fleet no more than 20 years old, and technology would encompass around 85% refresh of student and staff devices, as we are a one-to-one system, meaning one Chromebook for every student, and then the remaining 15% or so for technology, if eLost passes, would be for infrastructure upgrades like servers and wireless. And these building projects would directly impact 8 out of our 11 existing schools. 6 you saw touch through direct building projects, and then our 2 existing middle schools would be impacted through redistricting due to the construction of Dove Creek Middle. So that brings us just again quickly to the end of a recap of eLost. So here's what we have done to communicate this information to our community. So first we have a flyer. This is on our website. It's available digitally, and it's also been presented in hard copy at schools and to other groups where this information has been presented. We also have a dedicated website, oconeyschools.org/eLost, and today we even added FAQ, frequently asked questions here, and I'll just briefly go through these. So again, as I mentioned, is eLost 6, would it be a new tax? No. eLost has been in existence since 1998, and if eLost 6 passes, it would be a continuation of this tax. If eLost passes, will it raise my property taxes? No. As we discussed, it's a sales tax, it's not a property tax, and that means that both residents and visitors to the county would contribute. Why is this on the ballot now? This March voting time period, if eLost passes, allows the school system to take advantage of historically low interest rates and begin construction sooner, which also avoids inflation costs. And this would benefit taxpayers because then the pennies can go as far as possible. And then we recapped here which schools would be impacted if eLost 6 passes, and then why are 3 of the schools not directly impacted? Well, Dove Creek is a brand new school, and both of our high schools underwent a number of projects under eLost 5. What is the Instructional Support Center, and where will it be built? The Instructional Support Center will be constructed on property currently owned by the school system in downtown Watkinsville. It would house all the divisions here at the central office, such as teaching and learning, business services, operations, human resources, student services, and communications. Naming it an Instructional Support Center instead of the board office or central office highlights a key belief of our school system. We have 2 types of employees, teachers and those who support teaching. In addition, our current meeting space is inadequate, and so if eLost 6 passed, that would help us address that concern as well. And then you can see here about what type of technology. I just spoke about that. And then why does OCS keep adding on and building schools? And I address that as well because of the continued growth of our county. So here's a bit more about communication. So far, we've had 4 social media posts about a week apart each. These are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And then we also provide this information to our schools, and our schools have done a great job personalizing this information. You can see even our distance learners have received it in their weekly newsletter, and then each school sends out a Friday e-newsletter, and they have included in there a caption about specifically how eLost, if it passed, would impact that school community. And then we also have the information available on our website, and this is not only on the main page of the OCS website, it's also on each school's main web page as well. And all these graphics link back to oconeyschools.org/eLost. And then there have been so far 2 direct emails from Dr. Branch to faculty and staff and to the community. And so this first one that was just an overview was sent on February 10th. And you can see I've given 2 examples here. This one's addressed to faculty and staff, and this one's addressed to the community. One of our system best practices is to always make sure that we email staff first and separately. And so this is the one that went out today on March 1st. Dr. Branch has also spoken or is scheduled to speak to a number of groups. These include our Villa Parent Academy, Rotary, school councils at the primary school, the elementary schools, High Shoals, Rocky Branch, and Malcolm Bridge Middle. And he's also presented on this at all 3 of his superintendent advisory groups that encompass parents, students, and teachers. There's also a notice of the election. We've linked to this on our website, and it's also appeared so far 6 times. It will appear a total of 6 times in the legal organ, the Oconee Enterprise. So it appeared January 21st, February 11th, 18th, 25th, and it will appear again on March 4th and March 11th in the legal notice section. We've also had a number of external outlets cover eLost as well. You can see here in the February 4th edition of the Oconee Enterprise. On February 16th, it was covered by WGAU. And in fact, tomorrow morning at 7:15, Dr. Branch will be interviewed by Tim Bryant on the radio, so you can tune in and listen about eLost. And then on February 4th, Oconee Observations did a blog posting on eLost. And then February 23rd, this was in the Athens Banner Herald. The Chamber of Commerce shares our graphics in their weekly e-newsletter. And so you can see that through our internal channels as well as through a variety of external channels, lots of information has been shared about eLost so that our community is aware of the voting dates, which right now early voting is happening and will end next Friday, March 12th. Early voting is Monday through Friday at the Civic Center from 8 to 5. And then the regular voting date at individuals, their polling locations based on their residence, that will be Tuesday, March 16th. And that concludes my eLost communications recap, unless there are any questions. Yes?
Just a comment. Thanks for all your work on this. It's really important to get this communication out and to make people understand what it's for, what it's been used for in the past, and what this allows us to continue to deal with and the issues we need to respond to going forward. You know, we've had eLost for so long in this community and literally across the state. We've long since forgotten what it was like before eLost and what communities and school systems had to do, and their means by which to respond to growth before we had eLost, which was primarily property taxes used to support debt to build buildings to respond to growth across the whole state, every school system across the state. And we've long since forgotten that and just almost take this for granted. But this communication to put together shows it's not taken for granted, because it shows you exactly why it's important and the growth that it allows you to respond to. We're going to continue to grow as people continue to come to a good school system. And if we're going to continue to respond to that growth in a quality way, this is a vitally important tool to be able to do that. Just my 2 cents worth.
Well, the last line referendum we had in this county was 1995, I think it was. And since then, we've used eLost to fund facilities operations. And it's been extremely important. It's been a continuation. They haven't been stacked on each other. You can only do so much with each one. You go to the voters and you ask for it. I think we're at the point, if you've ever read Good to Great, the book, it talks about how you move into your future, and they call it a hedgehog moment, where you can catapult yourself into the future with improvement measures. And I really think that we're at a hedgehog moment here. I've been kind of hibernating, so I haven't been able to get out and speak much, but I think we're really at that point. The naysayers will say anything they can say to throw you off the track as a voter, but the bottom line is that it benefits the students, it benefits the communities, and that's what people come here for. And that's why I'm for this, and I'm for it for the kids as much as for the community. So, you know, the key is always people get out and vote your conscience. You know, that's what you got to do. That's your civic duty. And so we just, and I appreciate what you're doing, because it's just putting the information out there in front of everybody. I don't, even my neighbors, I don't tell them how to vote. they may ask me a question, and some of them are pretty honorary. But you know, you got to just tell the truth. And so I think this whole thing has been a truthful enterprise, and so I appreciate you saying all this today. And I got the opportunity to read it ahead of time, and sometimes I'm a little slower thinking than when you talk, but your work here is outstanding. So really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
That's all I got to say.
You mentioned that the new instructional support building would house central offices. How long have we been in this current building? When's the last time central offices was put into a new facility?
Since 1980. And before then, the central office was housed in the bottom floor of the courthouse. And I believe Dr. Branch knows what our student enrollment was in 1980.
Yeah, we were 2,100 students at that point. So we're a little over 8,300 students this year.
Wow, and 40 years in this current configuration. So that's to me pretty exciting to see that 40 years later we could possibly have a new instructional support facility. I think that's a long time coming. So that's one of the most exciting things in my mind right there. And it kind of shows the county that Oconee County is and the school system that we are. And we're setting the bar, so we need to have those facilities that show that, I think. So thank you.
Okay. Appreciate it.
My next item of information is the monthly recap video, and so we'll show that, and then I'll conclude with my one action item.
Thanks.
Right, you saw each of those images for just a few seconds, but I had the good fortune to see many of them in person, and I just have to say there's just such wonderful things happening at all 11 of our schools. So it's just been a really great month here in our county. All right, and then my one item of information is an addendum to the current 2020 to 21 school calendar. Let's see. So it was quite serendipitous that the first day that educators could receive vaccines was on a teacher work day here, which is Monday, March 8th. That's next Monday. And again, the very first day educators can begin receiving them and the day that they'll receive them here in Oconee County. So the proposed amendment to the calendar would be making Friday, April 2nd a teacher work day as well to enable our educators to follow up seamlessly with their second vaccines. Dr. Branch, I'll turn it over if you have anything else.
Thank you, Anissa. Board members, we just want to ask for your consideration in this amendment. Obviously, no action needed tonight. We would take official action next week, as is our practice. But in talking with our partners at Piedmont, this matches up to allow us to try to duplicate the exact same experience that we anticipate on March the 8th for all of our educators and staff in our school system, making it really seamless in terms of the organization and scheduling of this piece, which Dallas is leading along with our friends at Piedmont. And so we'd ask for this consideration. We also acknowledge that it's the Friday before spring break, which has traditionally been a day that our families sometimes go ahead and get a jump on their experience. And so we think this would be a good day to use to vaccinate our staff, and we can think of no better thing to do on a work day than ask them to accomplish that one thing that's going to be most important in this challenging time. So thank you for your consideration of that. We're happy to answer any questions at this point or next week prior to action.
I'm sure that the students and parents wouldn't mind having an extra day added to their spring break. And of course, we want our teachers and staff to get the vaccine as quickly as they can. So I think it's great that we can make this available. And I think in talking with you earlier that Oconee County's, the way our schedule is, that we have more than enough instructional time, that we would still have the equivalent of 180 school days for the students, even with this extra day off. So,
and I can confirm that that is correct, that Oconee County Schools has exceeded the state's requirement of 180 school days or its equivalent, and so that day would not have to then later be made up.
right.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great job. We have a need for executive session this evening, so we do need a motion to approve.
I make a motion the board adjourn to executive session to discuss or deliberate upon personnel matters as described on an affidavit that will be attached to the minutes.
Ms. Argo has made that motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Parrish. All in favor, please raise your hands. Passes 5-0. We're adjourned to executive session.